Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, that way anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. All right, everybody, welcome back. Buckeye Bar guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Today's date is Monday, September 27th, 2021. We're coming off Buckeyes victory over Akron, 59-7. I believe we said after last week we would like a plus 40 and a minus 14 type of affair for the Buckeyes. So we got that. So that was good. And we'll get into the specifics of the game. And then we will do a show a little bit later in the week to talk about Rutgers coming up for this week's game. So good win this weekend, John. I mean, team is who the team was, but I mean, at least they look good and they actually improved on some stuff. So we'll see if it was just the fact that they were playing Akron, or if this is maybe something going forward that they are actually fixing some stuff.
Yeah. And I don't like to get too much into, it's just Akron. I get it. You don't know what you saw because of the level of competition, but there are definitely some positives to take from there, which, we'll talk about. Defense, I think, I really didn't look it up. I feel like they kept Akron under their averages. I think they did. So, how our defense is playing, that's a win. That's a win in itself, is keeping them, under their averages of what they have been scoring for the year. It's offense took a minute to get into rhythm, but they definitely, they're on to something. You again, we'll talk about it, but the run game is, I think, looking up. Of course, again, you got to think about the level of competition there, but I don't like being too harsh on Ohio State or not giving enough credit, saying, hey, it's just Akron. It doesn't really count as a win, because they played a lot better than they have.
Yeah. It definitely counts. I remember there's been times in years past where some of these Ohio schools, sometimes, they don't seem like they care so much, and they actually push us a little to the brink more than we were expecting. So, the best thing you can say about this game is Ohio State looked like what Ohio State should, and they kept Akron. I don't know what Akron's actual team averages for the year, but Ohio State didn't give up much more than 200 yards total offense. So that's a good thing in itself, considering they've had back-to-back games where they gave up 500 plus. So and the fact that Akron didn't even sniff 300 yards is a good thing, in my opinion, that at least that they were able to hold them down. Akron's quarterback was under pressure the whole night. They were coming at him. They were getting pressure from all levels. We'll do the defense the second part, because I want to start with the offense, but so we'll get into this in a couple minutes, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far from the zones. So but like I said, we'll get into that in a couple minutes. First, we'll start with the offense. The big thing of the night was the quarterbacks. So we'll start with them. Basically, my feelings is, so Mccord got the start, and then Miller played the second half. I thought they both did pretty good. Obviously, Miller was under less pressure than Mccord was, because the game was in hand at that point. Mccord, he started shaky. Basically, no difference in what Stroud has done most every game to start the year, to start the games off. That he had a lot of, you could tell, high emotions, and coming into the game and was shaky because of it. So, not really much you could take from it. I thought he did pretty good, though, considering.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. Like you said, the first two series actually did not look good for him. He definitely settled down a lot after that. I think, just run game getting going, making things a little bit more simple for him, get him just some easy, like the little pop pass in front of him and screens, sweeps, whatever it may be, just to get him comfortable, getting the chains moving. That definitely helped him ease into it. I didn't see anything different from his start as what I've seen from CJ Stroud's. I know everyone will tell you, his passes were better. I will say, I did hear, I think it was from Jeremy Birmingham, that he said, McCord's passes, you could hear them a little bit, like they had a little bit more pop to them than what you would hear from CJ. So obviously, and I think we all knew he had a stronger arm coming into the season anyway. So I don't think that's really, I don't think that's news to anybody that follows Ohio State football. Accuracy, though, I don't know. I don't think it was any more than CJ's. Probably had less high passes than what CJ's had this year. But if you remember, like, people were like, oh, he was just, he was hitting throws, he was leading people. Go back and watch CJ Stroud against Oregon. I realize, he had a couple, he overthrew Garrett Wilson to tie the game. But you had mentioned it many times when you and I were watching that Oregon game, was just kind of how impressed you were with like how he was drilling balls over the middle, and you know, and then he was hitting Jackson Smith and Jigba on those little like crossing routes or out routes. So I don't know. I didn't notice much of a difference. I don't think, but on the flip side of that, it wasn't like he was much worse than CJ Stroud. So, you know, I think you're in good hands either way.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize just how hard some of those down the field throws can be, especially to the outsides when you're dealing with sidelines too. I mean, you got to be really, really accurate for that. And that doesn't necessarily grow on trees. Sometimes that's you kind of learn that as you go. So I'm not too concerned about any of our guys, how they're throwing the ball down the field. None of them have been that overly accurate. I mean, I think got really spoiled with Justin. Justin just had a really good feel for how fast his receivers were, and he was able to keep it out enough in front of the receivers, but at the same time put the same enough air on it that they can just kind of run with it when they get open. And I mean, that was how many touchdowns through the years, the last 2 years. You know, those aren't easy throws, because I mean, you're gauging how fast your receiver's running, you're gauging how much air you have to put under, how much in front of the receiver you have to put it. I mean, I think a lot of people make that as, it's just an easy pitch and catch, but sometimes it's not the easiest throw on the field. And from what I actually saw from Mccord as he got going, and I saw the same thing from Stroud, is they're actually pretty good at throwing, which I think can be a really hard throw, is staying in front of guys on those crossing routes. And they both have not made that many mistakes. I mean, Stroud had a couple against Oregon, but you know, he usually leads the guys and through the middle. And I was seeing the same thing from Mccord. I saw the same thing from Miller, and those are good passing routes for these quarterbacks right now in their careers. So, I mean, I would like to see us maybe go more towards those when they're in obvious situations where you're man to man, or when you're can easily run through zones. But I think we're going back to the fact that I don't care who's starting a quarterback. They need to get these running games going early and often, because that is where they're going to win games, because they are very dominant running the ball, and you can tell they're going to be able to run it fairly. I shouldn't say fairly easy. They'll face some defensive challenges this year, but that's where their bread and butter is going to be, and they need to really go to that to establish the passing game.
Well, I mean, when you say, and I know when you say really easy, I mean, because you're just looking at the talent they have, but it wasn't really easy against Oregon. So you got to, you have to figure out what makes that run game work. Because like you said, that's going to make everything take off. And if a team comes out and they're committed to stopping your run from the beginning, you're going to be able to throw on them.
I think we've seen, and this is nothing to cut on my end, I think we've seen the last 2 weeks why it's just running a little differently. If they would have came in with that game against Oregon with the thought process that Henderson's our guy and everybody else is just spelling him after that, I think they would have been able to run on Oregon. I've seen enough from him now that I think if he would get consistent handoffs like he's gotten the last 2 games, I mean, he got taken out earlier in this last game, but he got consistent handoffs early in the game. And then there was a point that, they just, I mean, it was obvious who the starting running back is, because you never saw him again. And yeah,
Right. I mean, honestly, against Akron, had they wanted to, how how quickly into that game would he have broken Trey Sermon's single game rushing record?
oh, third quarter. I mean, he was
Not even by the end of the third quarter, though.
no,
Two and a half quarters.
mid third quarter would have been about it, and maybe even sooner. I don't know if they would have went just run. I mean, who knows? He might have had it by halftime. I mean, he was running free against Akron, and they could have done that all night against Akron. And there's just, and I like Mayan a lot. I like Teague a lot too. It's just they both. There was just times where Mayan's getting if somebody could shut him down early in his run, usually he doesn't go down as easy as Teague, but he gets cleaned up pretty easily. Like the second and third guys in will get him down. If you can stop him, it's not necessarily always easy to stop him. Sometimes he can bull rush right over that first guy and get a few more yards. But I mean, Henderson's just different. He's got the power. I mean, we've seen him now run through tackles. I mean, his vision, I mean, it's hard. It's kind of crazy to say this after a couple games. I don't know if there's been a better running back in Columbus that I've seen with him with vision. Like he sees all around him and he makes this the simplest cuts in the world. And like, it's nasty. And I'm looking forward to seeing him against better defenses because I want to see it. Just, is this real what I'm seeing? Because I think it is. And I just think I think when it's all said and done, bearing injuries or anything like that, he very easily could go down as the best running back in school history. I mean, that's probably going to be in 3 years.
Right. And I mean, I know there's a long way to go before you're there, but I mean, like J.K. Dobbins was special when it came to, where he could see and he would make that jump cut and then get himself like 20 more yards, 30 more yards, whatever it would be. This guy, I mean, it's almost like he has like Zeke's straight line speed, but he could do that making a move on somebody. It's like he doesn't have to jump. It's like he can do the same thing Dobbins did without, making that jump. It's just like he could just change direction, and it's like he gets faster as soon as he plants and just like goes diagonal just a little bit to get past that guy. I mean, he's gone.
He makes it so flawless. I mean, you can't even tell when he plants. Like it's like literally it looks like a video.
Fluid motion. It's just
it looks like a video game. It's like literally you hitting the cut button on playing Madden or NCAA, and just that's how stupid it looks. Like it's just ridiculous. And like I've never seen that before, at least on a consistent basis. I'm sure there's been running backs in college football that can, but I just have not seen it. I mean, I don't watch everybody as religiously. We have other games on, but his cut is just, I've never seen anybody in Columbus be able to do that cut.
Yeah.
And like we were, me and Dad, we were talking about this weekend that like kind of who he reminds you of. And because a lot of people said it like Reggie Bush, coming into the season. And I'm like, I see the Reggie Bush comparisons, but like I also see Saquon Barkley comparisons, and I'm like, it's like a mixture of the two of them.
Well,
and
yeah, I think a lot of people call him like baby Saquon or something because just like
you can see it though. He's
like him too. Yeah, definitely.
And and it's just I don't know. He like you said, he's got some Zeke in him too, where he can when he gets out into the open, he's gone. Like I don't know.
And he's strong though. Like, he's not little. Like he's a strong back.
Yeah, and he's compact and he's strong and he's fast and he has great vision. He has fluid moves, and it's like literally he has like just through a few games, it seems like he has the best out of every quality you're looking for. And you're not usually expecting a running back to carry every single one of those qualities.
Right.
He's got strength to him. He's even looked pretty good when he's been in there picking up blitzes.
Yeah, he definitely has. The difference between Mayan and him, like Mayan is tough as hell, but Mayan, you have to make sure, and you want your line to block for everyone. You want them to have those holes. You want them to have those yards to get through. But where Mayan is like getting met, at the line or even maybe sometimes behind the line, like those guys, like Trey Henderson's already past that point when those guys get there, It's like he's already broken that level.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to, with the linemen, that's the thing. You have to kind of hold that block just a second longer with my end. And, I mean, and they're capable of doing it. And like I said, this isn't cut on my end time. I think Mayan Williams is one of the unbelievable backup and just change of pace for him. I mean, imagine trying to, you're getting ran over and ran past by Henderson, and then you just come this big bully comes in, like when they decide to give Henderson spells, and then they got a bigger bully on the sidelines when they want to give him spells. And
Right.
it's just, it's not there's no win situation in it, but I think they finally found the pecking order that is Henderson's the starter, and you move to Mayan, and then you know what, and then you let then you just let Teague just beat up on you when you're dead freaking tired because like you've been running in circles now this whole game and getting ran over and trying to catch Henderson. And but they need to just run and then just work a passing game off that. And I think you're going to end up seeing a lot of improvement out of I mean, to me, it's still Stroud's team. I didn't see enough from that he gets the job taken from him. If he's still hurt this week, though, I'm willing to say let Mccord start another game. You might as well just let him get healthy and see what Mccord does against a little bit better of a team. But either or, run, maybe run some more, and then build a passing game around it, and it's just going to help them.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you said I think they're going to be able to establish a run game on anybody though, unless like if a team is committed, like 8 guys in the box type deal to stopping Trey Henderson. So be it, because we got the receivers that'll make you pay for that.
Yeah, and the thing goes with that, though, is that if you commit 8 guys in the box against him, he gets into the secondary.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Right.
Like
he breaks that second level. There's no one there that's going to stop.
And he's got such quick moves that even with 8 guys in the box, this dude could break into the second level because he kind of has that kick return, punt return mentality that, he sees the field so well that it might not matter how many guys you have in the box. If you give him a little bit of a space, he can zigzag through it, and then he'd be gone because there's nobody on the next level to take him on.
Right. He can still make you pay. And it kind of, I mean, when you look back, I mean, you can't dwell on Oregon too much, but, I think I mean, I know other people had said it, but I think you said, he probably won't start, but he should start from day one. I think you and I both were kind of like, if all things are equal, not, he gives you the best chance. He's the best athlete. He was your best guy at running back. And again, nothing against Mayan. And really, I mean, a lot of Oregon was the game planning anyways, that they just didn't commit to the run. The run wasn't doing it, but when they started figuring things out in the second half, they totally abandoned it because I think Day was just scared of that defense, that he knew that he thought he had to score every play and score quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. That game's well over. That's, way in the past now. Looks like the run game should start really getting figured out moving forward.
Yeah. Receiving team, I think they're starting to really kind of come into their own where we expected them. JSN is just like he's just another beast, and now they're just so loaded there. I mean, Mecca, he had that big reception in that game also.
85 yards. And that was a beautiful ball by Mccord though. Not much to it, not much on it, but he saw Buka, get to that next level past the defender, and he floated it right over the guy.
These guys are so shifty and stuff, and they're such great route runners, and especially the top 3. And then now you saw it from Emeka too, that you don't really have to do anything crazy with it. That's why I'm just saying, like, establish your running game and then just play off of that, because you only have to give these guys like 10 yards, and they could take it 80 yards to the house. I mean, any one of them are good enough to do it. And when they have such speed, they're good route runners, and they're getting open based off of that. And then they have speed to finish. And so, like, sometimes I think in the first couple of weeks, they really were just overthinking a lot of stuff. Is feed Henderson, and then let your receivers do their things in space, and not you don't have to throw it 80 yards down the field to try to, because they could take it 80 yards the house off a 10-yard pass. So like,
and then with Henderson, work. I mean, you can work an RPO if you want to try it, or I've always said, just go out of the pistol and work the play action game.
yeah. And I mean, we saw in the first game what he could do catching the ball. I mean, imagine when they start putting more screen games in with him. I mean,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Get some blockers, get some linemen in front of him down the field.
Yeah. And I mean, they're not ready to start running that stuff yet, but I think that might be coming for Penn State here in a couple of weeks, where you're going to see some of that added to the playbook. But all in all, I was pretty happy with the offense. Like I said, I mean, you can say opponent, and it's true, but they scored 59 points. Yeah. Then they looked pretty consistent doing it. Once Mccord got through his little jitters to start the game, he was fine. He settled down. The running game just dominated Akron. They could have literally ran the ball every play, and I think they would have probably scored 59 points. I mean, I don't know.
They might have still had as many yards.
There was a point in the game, Akron didn't seem like they want to tackle these guys anymore. So
no.
But I think we both agree going forward. So just on the Stroud situation, I mean, it's Stroud's team still. I mean, I think Mccord, if he gets to play this week, and if he lights it up against Rutgers, if he would get the play because there's still McCord's not feeling, then you got some stuff you got to start talking about. But I didn't see enough from Mccord out of Akron to say that it was definitely that this is a quarterback controversy at this point.
No. But also, CJ, if his shoulder is bothering him in a game, though, Ryan Day is much more comfortable now to say, hey, Kyle or Jack, get in there. Yeah. CJ's arm's not feeling well.
And honestly, that was probably on both sides of the ball. That was the best thing about this game. Is it's been so long since they've really laid the screws to somebody that you could actually get people into games where I mean, they were so desperate to get some of the guys off the bench last year, and they never did. Part of that, I think, was, we've talked about in the past, part of that was probably fear from Ryan a little bit, because I think he wanted to be out a little bit more in front of teams than he was, but there was probably times where maybe he was up by 2 scores and stuff, where he probably should have just been like, maybe I should bring in a couple other guys just to, just for a series or two, just to, get them some actual playing reps. But, that was the good thing about on Saturday, is that these guys got actual reps in games. So now they feel comfortable. They've been there. They've done that. If McCord has to get in sometime right later on in the season, yes, it's going to be against a better team than Akron, but he's at least went through game reps. So he's actually seen it.
And kind of to expand on what you're saying a little bit, I know a lot of it was, of course, the defense wasn't doing it, but also I think Ryan, a lot of times he got into the second half and he wanted to see that first team offense gel and score the first 2 drives, hey, we just went through a good first half, but we're going to go to the second half. Let's get, 2 scores, 1 score, whatever. And then I'll get you guys out of there. And they always they had a lot of trouble being, a cohesive unit coming out of the halftime. Now I don't think Rutgers had any chance to win that game last year. I think he could have still went and put a second team in, and then, if need be, get Justin back on the field if you have to hold a game off. Indiana's down at some point 35-7. I know they marched their way back, but I think maybe there's a point that you could say, okay, let's get the second team in there for a couple series. Michigan State certainly didn't seem like they posed really any challenge in that game last year. I think you could have got some guys some valuable, snaps, and they actually had the backup quarterbacks throw in that game. Of course, Stroud had a big touchdown run. So, I mean, I think there were times Day could have got these guys worked in last year. I know he didn't feel comfortable with it. I know it was an extraordinary season. So I'll give him a pass on that. But I think there were times that these guys could have played.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. So defensive side of the ball. I mean, again, it's Akron, but it just felt like night and day. Like it just felt like that
First two series still weren't good.
They weren't, but they started settling down into the game then, and they're starting to get used to that zone. And I think you got so much youth. You've never gotten the pass rush that if you got the pass rush you were getting in years past, then you can kind of be like, all right, we're going to play lockdowns on the outside, and then we're going to come at guys. With this team, I think you can get a pass rush in the zone. I think you can get blitzes in the zone, and at least everybody's looking forward. And, and if what I saw the other day is that they were there to make the tackle. They were there to possibly make plays on the ball. We saw a couple interceptions. One of them was a pick six. There was almost a second pick six. That, they have athletes, so let them establish themselves by just being able to look forward and make plays. And I think it makes them think less. And because you just cover the zone you have to cover. And then if somebody comes into your zone and they throw it to make a play on the ball. Either make the play on the ball or make the play on the player. And, if you get there too early, get there too early. You get a penalty on you. It's better than a guy running free. So,
yeah, I mean, it's like they have these young athletes that just have a nose for the ball. I mean, you got to get those guys, keep them on the field. I mean, from what I saw, you need some sort of combination of Cam Martinez, Lathan Ransom, and Ronnie Hickman as safeties bullets. And I don't see anything else around that. I mean, Cam Martinez, I don't know how he is, in run support. He seems like he's always got a nose for the ball though, but I mean, maybe that guy's your free safety.
Yeah. It seemed like that they finally, hallelujah, Eichenberg didn't play much early in the game. He played a lot more in the second half, and I thought he looked okay.
He looked okay in the second half.
Maybe somebody got in his face and said, hey, or maybe it's just the zone fits him better too. That, he's not worrying about who he's covering. And, I'm just covering a territory. I'm not covering a person. So, maybe all around it's better for it, because he even seemed like he was reacting better to where the ball was coming. He actually came up and made some nice stops right in the hole, and he was in the right spot in a couple places on passes. But early in the game, I thought that they didn't seem like they were rotating as much, and they were starting to seem like they are getting confident with the guys they need to have on the field. They need to have, Cody Simon more on the field. They needed to have Hickman more on the field, Martinez, Ransom, even Craig Young a little bit. And I think those are the guys that for the middle of this defense that you got to be confident with. And it seems like that they're starting to get confidence in those guys. So they let those guys play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would like to see more Craig Young. You know what though? So do you want to kind of break it down by position grouping on the defense?
I'm sure.
Okay. So a defensive line, started off, they still weren't getting pressure the first two series. I think something just finally hit them like, you know what? I don't know. We're figuring out the moves, but we are bigger, faster, stronger. We're just going to run these guys over all night. And they did. And it worked. And, maybe you're not going to get that pressure out of your ends, but hell, if you can get that pressure from your 1 and 3 technique, they'll get to the quarterback, or that'll push them back to the end. And it's going to create trouble for the quarterback. So that's something that, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks. There have been more errant passes. Of course, Tulsa wasn't the most successful, but we got more pressures on them. But there have been more errant passes, but also you get those playmakers in the back end there, and they're picking the ball off. They're making plays on the ball. So I was very impressed with, maybe not very impressed. I was happy with the defensive line though. Haskell Garrett, anytime a defensive tackle gets 3 sacks, and Tyleik Williams had 2 sacks. So, it's a big game for them.
I was definitely more impressed with the tackles than I was with the ends, but the ends started playing better. I saw some things from Harrison I like. Tyreek Smith was looking pretty good. JTT and Jack Sawyer both were looking phenomenal in the game. There was a couple plays where, Jack Sawyer, he kept an edge a couple times and didn't let guys get outside of him when they tried to run to his side. And, that's like what we were missing against Oregon.
Yeah.
Like, just set the edge and, let players come back on you. And so I was impressed with that. I thought the defensive line did fine. It was just nice to see them get pressure.
Yeah. I agree.
Get the hurries, just get to the guy. And like you said, and they made some errant throws, and, it was better all around.
The linebackers, I think they look better. You know who, we'll talk about KVaughan Pope here in a minute, but Steel Chambers, man.
Yeah, we'll finish on him.
Steel Chambers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know you didn't have the depth last year, but what was that guy ever doing at running back?
I don't know. I mean, I think that they probably should have played him more at linebacker because he was, he was phenomenal. I really enjoyed. He was making some good plays. He might end up becoming like Zach Bourne by the end of the year, where maybe not like the middle linebacker, but he just gets in so much that he ends up making all these plays come down the stretch and actually solidifies the linebacker room.
And he's another one that has a nose for the ball. He was always around the ball, and he tackles people. Like he's not afraid. He's not missing tackles. Like he's going in there and hitting people. He's a hell of an athlete. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he matures this year. Craig Young, of course, still not getting as many snaps as I thought he would, but he had great closing speed on a play. Of course, you can't say enough good things about Ronnie Hickman. I mean, that guy's just doing awesome at that bullet position. Cody Simon's going to be the real deal. And I think Taraja, I mean, he didn't do great against Oregon. Of course, he didn't play last week, but I thought it was a nice bounce back week for Taraja.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought Eichenberg looked better, like I said.
Yep.
And then they were getting, Hickman, that Hickman I thought was looking pretty good. I thought Cody Simon looked good. Taraja Mitchell was looking good. Steele looked good. So there was a lot of good things that we were seeing from the linebackers.
Yep. And then secondary, I mean, we've already kind of talked about the secondary, so we don't got to focus too much on those guys. But the corners, again, they played well. Safeties look like they're starting to kind of figure something out. I hope they are, but definitely Cam Martinez and Lathan Ransom, those guys, I think those might be your two best options at safety.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Court Williams got in.
So, secondary. I definitely from the secondary. I thought that they were looking good. That I definitely like still what I'm seeing on the outside, and then Cam Martinez, I think, is just him and Ransom are just better in the middle than what they've been running in the last couple of weeks, and that's who they need to keep going with. And I just think that's all around the middle of the field just seemed a lot better. And again, I didn't see a lot of guys running free, even the first couple series where maybe they were a little were giving up a little bit more and stuff. It's still, there weren't guys running like there were, in the previous weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all right, so I guess we'll do KVaughan Pope just because that was the big storyline. I didn't get nobody got to see it like live on TV, but it was talked about by several guys of the press corps on Twitter, and so it looked like he was trying to come in, I guess, and got called off, and that didn't go over well. And him and Al Washington got into an argument on the sideline, and then he ripped his shirt off and started walking out and threw his gloves into the stands and left. A staffer came back, got him, and then he must have been told to go. Once he came back onto the field, he was told to leave again, this time by the coaching staff, that he needed to go back to the locker room. So he left. We got the F Ohio State spelled with two C's. On Twitter, it was quickly deleted, but screenshots. Nothing good goes up. Yeah, nothing good can go up on the Twitter. And so, you got to think twice before you hit the send button. So he didn't think twice. It got screenshotted really quickly and got passed around. And, sounds like, and then the following day. So I don't know if officially he quit or not, because it went down that he was dismissed from the team and that he could stay on scholarship for the rest of the semester. But and then he officially entered the transfer portal today. So it is what it is. I mean, it makes it look a lot. It's much more drama filled than it ended up being. It should have been, but I think, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It was an emotional time. He made some mistakes. Wish him the best, and hopefully he finds a landing spot where he can prove himself.
Yeah, I mean, I wish the best for the guy. I don't want, I want him to do well. I think he has the talent to do well. I mean, anytime he was in a game, he flashed. I mean, with the limited snaps he's had 2 or 3 interceptions in his career. He always made big plays on special teams. We saw him a few snaps this year where he was always around the ball. I mean, I always thought, and nothing against Taraja Mitchell because he's having a decent year. He's having a fine season, but I always thought out of those 3 guys from 2018, Gant and Pope always flash more to me. I think Pope repeatedly, and I know I said, like, I kind of said he was going to, be a breakout guy, and I've talked about he needs more snaps these last couple weeks, but at the same time, he is showing that, he does have some maturity and some anchor issues, and this has been repeated. He's repeatedly said this stuff on Twitter when he's upset about his playing time. And I get it. You want to play. You're there to play football. You want to make a career out of this, but do it on the practice field. Don't get, because obviously something's carrying over, from the practice field. They're not trusting this guy with their defense because he's obviously, if you watch his game, he deserves to be on the field. So,
yeah.
And I thought about this earlier, just with like him and Gant, maybe if we're in a different universe where Baron Browning, lived up to his potential right away and he's gone after 3 years, and maybe Pete Warner decided to leave after 19 because he certainly was good enough to get drafted, but not as high as he ended up getting drafted. Maybe Gant and Pope see the field more last year, and this is a whole different season. But it was just an unfortunate circumstance that, they came in at 18. They didn't have a good guy developing them then. And then, there was a logjam there. And then Al Washington's guys came up and they were, physically ready to play at the same time that these guys were ready to play when they finally got their chance. And they just didn't do enough in practice, obviously, to separate themselves.
Yeah. And what you say about his guys, Washington's guys, and that's kind of seemed like from the first couple of weeks to now is that, Ryan Day, Al Washington, this defensive staff, Barnes. I mean, it just seems like that they made a decision that they not only are they a better team, but they're more competitive to win, and with some of these younger guys. And I think what we saw against the first half against Akron is that that's the guys they're going to take now. And they got a couple weeks, I mean, I'm not saying Rutgers and Maryland are going to be a picnic, but they're still not, Indiana, which is not the Indiana that a lot of people thought they would be. But, you got weeks now, a couple weeks before Penn State. And let's let some of these young guys establish themselves. They could be really good by the time Penn State rolls around here. And I mean, this has really the makings. And I know you don't want to draw so much maybe after the Akron game, but with the youth that they have the making to really be a really lights out defense, especially with the type of defense that they're running where they don't have to really think about much. They're all facing forward and they're all reacting to the ball. And, and they got speed, they got athleticism. And I think that works for them. And, and if you can get pressure on these quarterbacks, that can really turn into a lot of turnovers coming down the stretch because they're going to be able to jump routes. And so I really like, and I think that's probably the frustration. It was obviously the frustration that hit Gant. He definitely saw it coming, considering he hardly played any against Oregon or Tulsa. And, I think Pope was starting to feel it too. And he wanted to give it out another week. And it just, he couldn't make it through the game. I wish he would have made it through the game before all this blew up, because, it was like, seems like the only thing anybody wanted to focus on was, you just beat a team 59-7, and every defensive player you played looked better than they've looked in previous weeks. And we're going to talk about the guy that doesn't even get on the field.
Right. And I can't even remember the article I was reading today. I mean, it was not like it was any publication that, is worthy to like praise or be upset about, but it was like one truth about every Big Ten team. And like Ohio State is like they're focusing, like talk about the culture. Like, I don't think the culture is an issue whatsoever. I mean, I laid it out there. You're talking about two guys that they were from an old regime and they got stuck in, a log jam behind guy from that old regime also. And then when it was their turn, guys from the new regime were ready to play. And there wasn't a spot for them. It sucks because, obviously linebacker is a spot that they're not comfortable with. There's depth issues. Yeah. They're constantly rotating people. They're obviously not comfortable. But if rotating people is a way to keep everyone happy, maybe these two made it a little bit easier on Al Washington.
Yeah. And then now we saw in the first half of that game that they were rotating less. So maybe they finally have started settling into a rotation that they feel comfortable with. And that's probably another reason why that affected him, his psyche, because he wasn't that guy. And, and look, there's always been a weird thing to me that those guys couldn't get past Tough Borland and onto the field. And, I know Baron Browning was good. Harrison was good before him. Pete Warner was good. Hillard really balled out last year after all those years of injuries. But it's like, they kept on marching Tough on and off the field. And when he definitely had a lot of issues and he was not you would think that if one of these guys were better athletes than him, they would have moved somebody else into middle linebacker just to get some of those other guys onto the field. And they never did. So that was always a weird thing to me, that they were just not showing up in practice. And I don't know. We don't know everything that went on. I don't have any insider stuff than outside what everybody else reads, but I kind of feel like I was probably more right than wrong on that they were just not showing up at all in practice and gave the coaching staff no confidence to play them.
Yeah. And you said about Tough Borland, and I completely agree, but what about Justin Hilliard jumping those guys back after season-ending injury after season-ending injury, and he ends up in front of them on the depth chart? There's just something that they weren't bringing it in practice, like you're saying, and it's a shame. They seem like good players when they actually got to see the field, but it's, you win your spots in practice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm definitely, we'll get more into Rutgers here in a couple of days, but definitely looking forward to this game coming up, because I want to see what they look like now, because I think that they're settling in on a defense, a defensive scheme, and a defensive players that are going to run that scheme. And I think that if Day knows what he's, is comfortable going with, which he should be going with, is I think they have a scheme now. They have players, they have a formula on offense that's right for this year's team, that, you don't, run the ball to build the pass, and that's the way they should go. So I think that's what they're showing, and I hope that's what they go forward with. But I'm really looking forward to them now getting into these next few weeks before Penn State, because it'll be 3 good games before Penn State, and that I think that they could really get everything settled in to be ready to play the Nittany Lions that night. And Penn State has a tough game against Iowa before they even get to that point. So we don't know where they will be in the rankings or what their record will be, but it's going to be a good game. And so I know we have a few weeks before that, but these are weeks that you keep on getting better and, keep on doing what they're doing right now on defense. And by the time that game rolls around, they could literally go from one of the worst Big Ten defenses to one of the best Big Ten defenses, because they have the talent to do it. And I think it will be, I want to see more this week, but I think it will be night and day when that game kicks off from where the defense was to where the defense is going.
Well, I mean, like you said, though, you got Rutgers and Maryland, which they're not, picnics anymore, but they should still be, for sure wins. You're Ohio State. So you should beat these teams. You got the team to honestly probably beat either one of them easily. It just, you haven't shown that you're capable of putting that all together yet. So let's do that. Then you get a bye week, and then you get Indiana, which Indiana is, maybe they're good, maybe they're not. Who knows this year? But that's something you get to go on the road, play Indiana, tune up, be ready for that game with Penn State and Columbus. So,
yeah. So, anything else you want to hit on tonight? Or
no, I think we covered everything. Yep.
All right. So let's go and get on out of here with that.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight at the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.